Stop scrolling. This message isn't random. If you felt even the smallest pull to pause right now, that's not coincidence. That's alignment. There is something you were meant to hear in this exact moment, something that could shift the direction of your life if you truly listen. Because most people will scroll past this, distracted, unaware, asleep to their own potential. But not you. You're still here. And that means something powerful is already in motion. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could save you from a trap that has silently been holding you back, and reveal a truth that feels almost too big to believe. The blessing you've been chasing has already been assigned to you. First, understand the trap. The dangerous trap isn't failure, it's distraction. It's the endless scrolling, the comparison, the doubt that whispers, "Not you." It's the illusion that success belongs to someone else, that blessings are rare, that you must wait, struggle, and prove yourself endlessly before anything good arrives. That belief is the cage, and most people never even realize they're inside it. But the moment you question it, the moment you pause and listen instead of scrolling, the cage begins to crack. Second, there is a shift happening for you right now. You didn't find this message by accident. There is a pattern in life where certain moments act as turning points, and this is one of them. Something greater than your current circumstances is trying to reach you, to wake you up. You've been preparing for this, even in your confusion, even in your struggles. Everything you thought was delay was actually alignment. Third, the blessing you're seeking is not in the future. It's already yours. Let that sink in. The opportunity, the breakthrough, the abundance you've been asking for, it has already been released in your direction. But here's the truth most people never hear. You don't receive it by chasing harder. You receive it by becoming aware enough to recognize it. The trap keeps you blind. Awareness sets you free. Fourth, you must start thinking differently from this moment. If you keep thinking like someone who lacks, you will keep living like someone who lacks. But if you begin to think like someone who is chosen, aligned, and already provided for, your actions will change, your energy will change, and your reality will start to shift. This is where transformation begins, not outside, but inside. Fifth, action is your signal of belief. It's not enough to hear this and feel inspired for a moment. You must move differently, speak differently, decide differently. When you act as if the blessing is already yours, you create a pathway for it to manifest in your life. Most people hesitate, they wait for proof, but the ones who receive move first. Sixth, protect your focus at all costs. The same world that distracts you will try to pull you back into the trap. Doubt will return. Fear will whisper again. But now you know better. Now you see the pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Guard your mind, your attention, your belief, because that is where your future is being shaped. So don't scroll away unchanged. Remember this moment. You stopped for a reason. You listened for a reason. And if you truly take this in, you won't just avoid the trap, you'll rise beyond it. The blessing didn't just find you, it chose you. First, understand the trap. The dangerous trap isn't loud, obvious, or easy to recognize. It's subtle, comfortable, and everywhere. It lives in the small habits you repeat without thinking, in the endless scrolling that eats your time while convincing you that you're just relaxing, in the quiet comparison that makes you feel like you're always behind. It's the voice that tells you there's always more time, that you can start tomorrow, that what you want isn't urgent. And the longer you listen to that voice, the deeper you sink without even realizing it. This trap doesn't destroy you all at once. It slowly disconnects you from your purpose, your focus, and your belief in what's possible for your life. You begin to accept less, expect less, and eventually you stop trying for more. What makes this trap dangerous is that it feels normal. Everyone around you is caught in it too, so it doesn't seem like a problem. It feels like life, checking your phone, watching others succeed, telling yourself you'll get serious later. But later keeps moving, and one day you wake up realizing you've spent years preparing instead of progressing. That's how the trap wins, not by force, but by delay. It convinces you that you're still on the right path, while quietly pulling you further away from where you're meant to be. And here's the truth most people never confront. The trap feeds on your attention. Every moment you give to distractions, you take away from your own growth. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you reinforce the belief that you're not ready yet. But you are ready. You've always been ready. The problem was never your ability, it was your awareness. The moment you start seeing the trap for what it is, it begins to lose its power over you. Breaking free doesn't require something dramatic. It starts with a decision, a conscious refusal to keep living on autopilot. It's choosing to be present instead of passive, intentional instead of reactive. It's catching yourself in those moments where you're about to fall back into old patterns and deciding, even if it's just once, to do something different. Because every time you do, you weaken the trap and strengthen your control over your own life. And that is where real change quietly begins to take hold and reshape everything you once thought was fixed. Second, there is a shift happening for you right now, even if you can't fully explain it yet. It's subtle, almost invisible at first, but it shows up in moments like this, when you pause instead of scrolling, when something inside you says, "Wait, this matters." Most people ignore that feeling. They brush it off, go back to distractions, and miss the very moment that could have changed everything. But you didn't. You stayed. And that decision, as small as it seems, is proof that something within you is waking up. This shift isn't about luck or coincidence. It's about alignment. There are times in life when everything you've gone through, every delay, every frustration, every unanswered question, starts to make sense in a different way. Not because your circumstances suddenly change, but because your awareness does. You begin to see that you weren't being held back. You were being prepared. Prepared to think differently, to move differently, to recognize opportunities you would have overlooked before. Right now, you may still feel uncertain. You may not see clear results yet, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of the most powerful transformations begin quietly, beneath the surface, long before they become visible. Just like a seed doesn't break through the ground the moment it's planted, your progress has been growing in ways you couldn't see. And this moment, this exact moment, is like the first crack of light reaching that seed. The reason this matters is because once a shift begins, it demands a response. You can't go back to being unaware without feeling the difference. The same distractions won't satisfy you the way they used to. The same excuses won't feel as convincing. You'll start to feel a pull towards something greater, something more meaningful, and that pull is not something to ignore. It's guidance. But here's where most people lose it. They doubt the shift. They question it, overthink it, and talk themselves out of it before it has a chance to fully unfold. They wait for perfect clarity instead of trusting the process, and in doing so, they slow down what was already set in motion. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You just need to recognize that something is changing and choose to lean into it instead of resisting it. Because this shift is not here to confuse you, it's here to reposition you, to move you out of old patterns and into a new level of thinking, a new level of action, and a new level of belief that will start opening doors you once thought were completely out of reach. Third, the blessing you're seeking is not waiting somewhere far ahead in your future. It has already been released, already set in motion, already moving in your direction. The idea that you must chase it endlessly, struggle for it without pause, or prove your worth before you can receive it, that's part of the illusion that has been keeping you stuck. Because when you believe the blessing is distant, you behave like someone who is constantly lacking. You delay your confidence, you hold back your actions, and you keep telling yourself, one day, instead of recognizing what is already unfolding now. Think about how often you've overlooked opportunities because they didn't look the way you expected. Sometimes the blessing doesn't arrive as something big and obvious. Sometimes it comes as a small idea, a sudden urge to take action, a connection, a shift in perspective, or even a challenge that pushes you to grow. But if your mind is fixed on a specific outcome, you miss the signs. You dismiss the very thing that could have changed everything because it didn't match the picture you had in your head. This is why awareness is everything. The moment you begin to understand that what you're looking for is already here in some form, your perspective changes. You stop chasing blindly and start recognizing intentionally. You begin to notice patterns, moments, and openings that were always there but invisible to you before. And once you see them, you can respond to them. That's how the blessing moves from potential to reality, not by appearing out of nowhere, but by being recognized and acted upon. There's also a deeper truth most people struggle to accept. Receiving requires belief. Not surface-level belief, not temporary motivation, but a grounded certainty that you are not separate from what you desire. If you constantly question whether you deserve it, whether it's possible for you, or whether the timing is right, you create resistance. And that resistance keeps the blessing just out of reach, not because it isn't yours, but because you're not fully open to it. You don't need to force anything into existence. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to control every outcome. What you need is alignment, where your thoughts, your actions, and your belief all point in the same direction. When that happens, things begin to flow differently. Opportunities feel more natural, decisions feel clearer, and progress feels less like a struggle and more like a process. So instead of asking, when will it come, start asking, where is it already showing up in my life? Because the moment you shift that question, you shift your awareness. And when your awareness shifts, you stop standing outside of your own breakthrough and start stepping directly into it, recognizing that what you once believed was far away has been within your reach this entire time, waiting for you to finally see it and claim it with certainty and intention. Fourth, you must start thinking differently from this moment, because everything in your life is shaped by the way you think long before it is shaped by what you do. Most people try to change their results without ever changing their mindset, and that's why they stay stuck in the same patterns. They take action, but it's action driven by doubt, fear, and limitation. And no matter how hard they try, those hidden beliefs keep pulling them back to the same place. If you truly want to step into something greater, the shift has to begin in your thinking. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you've been conditioned to think in terms of lack, to expect delays, to assume things won't work out, to believe that success, abundance, and breakthrough are reserved for someone else. And even if you say you want more, those deeper thoughts quietly influence every decision you make. They show up when you hesitate, when you overthink, when you talk yourself out of opportunities before you even try. That's how powerful your mindset is. It can either move you forward or hold you back without you even noticing. But the moment you decide to think differently, everything begins to change. Not instantly on the outside, but immediately on the inside. You start to question the limits you once accepted. You start to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to operate from a place of belief instead of fear. And that internal shift starts influencing your actions in ways that feel natural, not forced. Thinking differently doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing a perspective that empowers you instead of one that weakens you. It means asking better questions. Instead of, what if I fail? You begin to ask, what if this works? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this trying to teach me? Those small changes in thought create a completely different direction for your life. And here's the truth. Your mind will resist this at first. It will try to pull you back into familiar patterns because that's what feels safe. But safe is exactly what has been keeping you where you are. Growth requires discomfort. It requires you to think beyond what you've experienced so far. It requires you to hold a vision that doesn't yet match your current reality. As you begin to practice this, something powerful happens. Your confidence starts to build, not because everything around you has changed, but because you have. You begin to trust yourself more. You make decisions with more clarity. You stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. And over time, that new way of thinking becomes your default, shaping your actions, your habits, and your results in a way that feels aligned with the life you've been trying to reach, turning what once felt impossible into something that now feels not only possible, but inevitable. Fifth, action is your signal of belief, and without it, everything you've felt, heard, or understood up to this point remains incomplete. It's easy to feel inspired in a moment like this. It's easy to agree with powerful ideas, to say, "This makes sense," and even to feel a temporary surge of motivation. But none of that creates real change unless it turns into action. Because action is the bridge between knowing and becoming. It's the moment where you stop just thinking differently and start living differently. Most people wait for a perfect feeling before they act. They tell themselves they need more confidence, more clarity, more certainty. But that moment rarely comes. Confidence is not something you gain before action. It's something you build through action. Clarity doesn't appear while you sit still. It develops as you move. Every step you take, even if it's small or imperfect, gives you feedback, experience, and momentum. And momentum is what begins to separate you from the version of yourself that stayed stuck. The truth is, hesitation is one of the strongest forms of resistance. It disguises itself as preparation, as overthinking, as just making sure. But in reality, it delays progress. It keeps you in a cycle where you're always almost ready, but never fully committed. And the longer you stay in that space, the harder it becomes to break out of it. That's why the decision to act, even in a small way, is so powerful. It interrupts the pattern. It sends a message to yourself that you are no longer waiting. Action also changes how you see yourself. When you begin to move, you stop identifying as someone who wants change and start identifying as someone who creates it. That shift in identity is where real transformation begins. You start trusting your ability to handle challenges, to adapt, to grow. And that trust fuels even more action, creating a cycle that works in your favor instead of against you. It's important to understand that your actions don't have to be massive to matter. You don't need to take a huge leap overnight. What matters is consistency and intention. Small, repeated actions build strength, discipline, and belief over time. They create a foundation that can support bigger moves when the time comes. So instead of asking yourself if you're ready, ask yourself if you're willing. Willing to try, willing to fail, willing to learn, and willing to keep going. Because willingness leads to action, and action leads to progress. And once you start moving with that mindset, you'll realize that the distance between where you are and where you want to be is not as impossible as it once seemed. It's simply waiting for you to close it step by step through the choices you make every single day. Sixth, protect your focus at all costs, because your focus is the gateway to everything you are trying to build, and the world around you is constantly competing for it. Every notification, every distraction, every urge to scroll is not random. It's a pull away from your purpose. And if you're not intentional, you'll give your attention to things that take from you instead of things that build you. That is how people slowly drift away from their goals, not because they failed, but because they lost focus long enough to forget what they were working toward. Focus is more than just concentration, it is direction. Whatever you consistently focus on grows in your life. If your attention is always on distractions, comparison, and doubt, those things will expand. But if your attention is placed on growth, discipline, and opportunity, those begin to take shape instead. This is why protecting your focus is not optional, it's necessary. Because without it, even the strongest intentions fade over time. The challenge is that distractions don't always feel harmful. They often feel comfortable, entertaining, even deserved. You tell yourself you need a break, you'll just check one thing, you'll start again later. But those small moments add up. They create gaps in your momentum, and once momentum is broken, it becomes harder to restart. That's how the cycle repeats. Start, stop, delay, repeat, until progress feels distant again. To protect your focus, you have to become aware of what pulls you away most often. You have to recognize your patterns without making excuses for them. And then you have to set boundaries, not just with your environment, but with yourself. That might mean limiting time on things that don't serve you, creating space for deep work, or simply learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Because growth requires attention, and attention requires discipline. There will be moments when your focus slips. That's part of being human. But what matters is how quickly you return. The longer you stay distracted, the more control you give away. The faster you come back, the stronger your discipline becomes. Over time, this ability to return, to refocus, becomes one of your greatest strengths. When you truly protect your focus, something powerful begins to happen. Your progress becomes consistent. Your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions become sharper. You stop reacting to everything around you and start responding with intention. And in that space, you begin to create results that once felt out of reach. Not because you worked harder than everyone else, but because you stayed aligned with what mattered long enough to actually see it through and turn your vision into something real that continues to grow stronger with every moment you choose to stay locked in on what truly matters. So now you see it clearly. This wasn't just another message, and this wasn't just another moment you paused for no reason. You were meant to hear this because something inside you is ready to change. You've seen the trap for what it is. You felt the shift beginning. You understand that what you've been seeking is already within your reach, and now you know that your thoughts, your actions, and your focus are the keys that determine whether you step into it or keep delaying it. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise is not luck, talent, or timing. It's awareness followed by decision. And right now, you have both. You are aware, and you are standing at a decision point. You can go back to the Privichny cycle, back to distraction, doubt, and delay, or you can move forward with intention, clarity, and belief. Nothing is stopping you except the choice you make after this moment ends. Understand this deeply. Your life will not change because of what you heard today. It will change because of what you decide to do with it. Every insight you gained here is only as powerful as the action you take after it. This is where most people disconnect. They feel inspired, but they don't move. They agree, but they don't commit. And because of that, nothing truly shifts. But you don't have to follow that pattern. You can break it right now by making one clear decision: that you will no longer live on autopilot, that you will no longer ignore the signals, that you will no longer wait for the perfect time. Because the truth is, there is no perfect time. There is only the moment you decide to take control. The blessing you've been waiting for didn't just appear by chance. It found you because you are ready to receive it. But readiness is proven through action, through discipline, through focus, through the willingness to move even when it feels uncertain. That is how you step into what is already yours. So as you leave this moment, don't leave the same way you came. Carry this awareness with you. Guard your focus. Act on what you know. Think beyond your limits. And most importantly, trust that this was not random. This was your wake-up call.